The first signal. The night sky over the outer rim of the Empire was calm, filled with endless stars. But inside a lonely patrol ship, Officer Levin could not shake the strange readings on his console. At first he thought it was a system error, but the signal kept repeating, steady, deliberate, and powerful. He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. This was no drifting asteroid, no wandering pirate. The signal carried a rhythm, a pulse. It was like a heartbeat in the void, he whispered to himself. Terran code. The word Terran made the crew fall silent. For years, the Empire spoke of humans as if they were nothing more than noisy children in the galactic halls. Loud, curious, unpredictable, yet harmless. The Empire laughed when humans built their first interstellar ships. They laughed louder when humans claimed they would defend their borders. But no one was laughing now. Levin's captain, a tired old officer named Marek, moved beside him, his voice calm. "Confirm it." Levin nodded, hands flying over controls. After moments that felt like hours, the result was clear. "Sir, it's Terran fleet signal. Multiple ships, large tonnage, heavy engines, they are right outside our sector." A weight pressed over the crew. Marek looked at the main screen, and his jaw tightened, slowly. The blackness of space filled with shapes, first one, then many. A colossal formation. Ships larger than anything Levin had seen. Armored hulls, shining with strange markings. Their engines glowed like angry stars. "How many?" Marek asked, though his eyes already told him. "Too many," Levin said in a low voice. "This is no scouting wing, sir. This is a full armada." The crew watched in silence, fear crawling into their bones. But what shocked them most was not the size of the Terran fleet. It was the way the ships moved, not chaotic, not reckless, but ordered, sharp, disciplined. Like a single beating heart, Levin swallowed. "They are ready for war." The captain closed his eyes, his thoughts racing. The Empire always believed Terrans would break the moment they faced true power. But now, watching this display, he was not so sure. He felt a chill, a rare thing for an old officer. The comms officer spoke, her voice trembling. "They are broadcasting." The screen flickered. Then words appeared, translated into Empire tongue. Simple and clear. "We do not seek war, but we do not fear it. We are ready." The crew froze. The words seemed to burn into their minds. Not shouted, not begged, simply declared, Levin whispered. "They welcome the challenge." Marek gave the order. "Record everything. Send it to High Command now." As the message traveled back to the Empire's core worlds, the patrol ship remained drifting in the shadow of the human fleet. The Terran ships did not fire. They did not move closer. They simply held their ground, calm, unshaken, as if daring the Empire to make the first move. Inside the Empire capital, when the signal arrived, the council gathered. Their voices filled the chamber with arrogance. Some laughed. Others dismissed the Terran fleet as an illusion. One noble shouted, "Primitive apes cannot build such power. This is a trick." But in the corner of the room, an old strategist whispered words that chilled the few who heard him. "No, it is no trick. I have seen this look before. It is the look of a species that has survived its own end more than once." Back at the border, Officer Levin continued to stare at the human fleet. He expected to see fear or desperation, but instead, he saw steady engines, bright hulls, and a formation that told a different story. Humanity was not waiting to beg for mercy. Humanity was waiting to be tested. And for the first time in his career, Levin realized the Empire may not be ready for the answer. The silence of the void was broken only by the quiet hum of Terran engines, steady, strong, unyielding, a heartbeat echoing in the cold darkness, and the Empire listened. The gathering storm, the Empire Council chamber was vast, its high, ceilings covered in banners of countless conquered worlds. Each banner told a story of victory, of empires crushed, of species bowed in silence. The council members sat around a great circle, their voices echoing against stone and steel. "Humans dare show us ships," one lord sneered, his jeweled hands, clenching the table. "They are nothing more than animals who learn to weld metal." Another laughed, his voice sharp. "Yes, a race of dreamers. They build toys and call them fleets." But not all voices joined the laughter. From the shadows, an older counselor spoke with a tone heavy and low. "Do not mistake their dreams for weakness. Dreams built their world after fire destroyed it. Dreams made them walk their moon when they were barely out of caves. Dreams carried them across the stars while we watched." The chamber grew quiet. His words hung heavy, but arrogance quickly returned. "They are reckless," another counselor said. "They burn fast. They will collapse faster. We only need one strike." While they argued far away, in the heart of the Terran fleet, the flagship Iron Will floated like a fortress in the dark. Its hull carried no jewels, no banners of conquest, only a simple emblem, a circle enclosing a rising sun. Inside, corridors buzzed with movement. Engineers checked power lines, medics stocked supplies, soldiers sharpened focus, and in the command deck, Captain Dale stood with hands behind his back, his eyes fixed on the star map. The fleet was surrounded by Empire borders on 3 sides, a trap waiting to close. Yet the humans did not tremble. A young officer approached him, voice steady. "Captain, message from command. Empire fleet gathering near Orion Passage. Estimated force overwhelming." The captain's lips curved slightly, not in fear, but in resolve. "Good. Then we will meet them there." The officer blinked. "Sir, their numbers." "Numbers do not decide a battle," the captain said softly. "Spirit does." He turned back to the map, his eyes filled with fire. "Tell the men and women, this is not the day to bow. This is the day we show them what it means to be human." In the lower decks, crew gathered, eating rations, laughing quietly. Some carried photos of families, others hummed old Earth songs. Their voices carried not despair but unity. One young mechanic named Tom sat with his hands stained from oil. He whispered to his friend, "They think we will run. But my father told me once, humans never run from storms. We build ships and sail through them." His friend smiled faintly. "Then let's sail." Back in the Empire capital, the debate grew fierce. Commanders argued over strategy. Some demanded to wipe out the Terran fleet before it could spread further. Others warned of stretching resources. The Emperor himself rose, his voice cold. "You speak of fear like children. We are the Empire. We have stood for 1,000 years. We have crushed greater foes than this. Tomorrow we send the fleet. Tomorrow humans will kneel." Cheers filled the chamber, but not all were convinced. Whispers spread. Unease stirred. The strategist who had spoken earlier leaned to his aide and muttered, "They think humans will kneel, but I have seen the look in human eyes. It is not kneeling they plan. It is standing." Meanwhile, the Terran fleet moved slowly through the void, not rushing, not hiding. Their formation was like a storm cloud gathering strength. In the crew quarters, laughter faded as silence settled. One soldier pulled out a worn diary and read aloud, words. "From centuries ago, we choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard." The crew listened, the words old, but alive again in their hearts. And so the storm gathered. On one side, an empire drunk with pride, certain of its victory. On the other, humanity, quiet, unshaken, carrying the weight of every struggle, every war, every dream from their world. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, stars blinking like watchful eyes, waiting for the clash, waiting to see if the Terrans truly welcomed the challenge. And deep in the silence of space, the engines of the Terran fleet hummed like thunder far away, a warning that the storm was coming. The clash of pride, the Orion Passage, was a narrow stretch of stars, a place where fleets could not hide. The Empire chose it as the killing ground. Their ships arrived first, row upon row, filling the blackness with silver hulls and banners of conquest. Commander Arvos stood on the deck of the Empire flagship, his voice hard with pride. "Today, we end their arrogance. Today, Terrans will remember their place." His officers bowed. None dared question him. The Empire had crushed countless foes before. Why should humans be different? Yet as the minutes passed, silence stretched. Then from the far edge of the void, shapes appeared, dark at first, then glowing with steady light. The Terran fleet arrived. They did not scatter. They did not hesitate. They moved in formation, a wall of steel and fire. Their engines pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing in the silence. "They come," Arvos said with a smirk. "So bold, so foolish." Inside the Terran flagship Iron Will, Captain Dale stood tall, his eyes calm. "Signal the fleet. Hold formation. No fear, no retreat." The message spread ship by ship. Voices repeating, hands steady on controls, hearts pounding, not with dread, but with resolve. The Empire opened fire first. A storm of plasma bolts cut across the void, dazzling like falling stars. The Terran ships shuddered as shields flared. Some hulls cracked. Alarms rang on the Iron Will. Sparks showered the deck. A young officer shouted, "Direct hit on Sector 4!" Captain Dale's voice cut through the chaos. "Stay the line! Return fire!" The Terran fleet answered. Beams of light shot forward. Precise, sharp, cutting into the Empire formation. Ships exploded. Fragments drifted into the dark. Commander Arvos laughed bitterly. "They scratch us, but they cannot break us," he ordered, his ships forward, pressing the attack. Yet something troubled him. The humans did not scatter under fire. They moved tighter, sharper. Their ships shifted positions like dancers, covering one another, never leaving a gap, on one Terran cruiser. Engineer Tom wiped blood from his forehead and shouted, "Power rerouted! Shields holding!" His friend at the gunnery controls yelled back, "Then let's give them something to remember." Their cannons fired, ripping through an Empire destroyer. Cheers filled the deck. In another ship, a medic worked through smoke and flames. Patching wounds while the crew fought on, she whispered to the injured, "We hold the line, all of us." As the battle raged, the Empire pressed with numbers, but humans fought with something else. They fought with stubbornness, with refusal. To yield, each loss only made their line harder. Arvos slammed his fist against his chair. "Why do they not break?" his second officer answered, voice shaking. "Sir, they fight as if this is not war, but survival." The Terran flagship drove forward, cutting through waves of fire. Its cannons roared, explosions lit the passage. The Empire fleet began to falter. Still, the humans bled, ships burned, crews screamed, but no one retreated, no one begged for mercy. Captain Dale stood at the center, calm as the void itself. "Hold," he whispered. "Hold and show them who we are." After hours of fire and destruction, the battle slowed, smoke and debris floating like ghosts, both fleets battered, but still standing. Yet the truth was clear. The Empire had expected an easy victory. Instead, they faced a wall of defiance. Whispers began to spread across the Empire channels. "The Terrans, they do not fear us." Arvos stared at the fading light of destroyed ships, his pride cracking. This is not possible." On the Terran side, crew members slumped in exhaustion, but smiles crept across their faces. They had survived the storm. They had faced the Empire's pride and did not fall. In the silence after the clash, the galaxy listened. Rumors raced faster than light. Tales of humans who laughed at death, who stood unbroken against an empire in council chambers far away. Lords and generals argued louder than before. Some shouted for a final strike, others whispered of caution. And among the Terrans, a single message spread across every ship, written on walls, whispered in bunks, carved into steel, we welcome the challenge. And in that moment, every human knew the war was only beginning. The clash of pride was not the end. It was the opening of something greater, a storm that would decide the fate of the galaxy, fire in the void. The wreckage of the Orion Passage drifted silently, broken ships glowing faintly as they burned out. The Empire called it a skirmish. But those who fought knew the truth. It had been a storm, and the storm had not ended. On the Empire's capital world, voices shouted in the Grand Council chamber. They lost a third of our vanguard, one general cried, his face pale. Nonsense, another snapped. Our numbers are still greater than theirs. The humans bled just as much. But deep inside their words was fear, fear that would not fade. The Emperor rose, his cloak heavy, his voice iron. Assemble the great armada, send it to crush them completely. I will not allow this species to spread its defiance any further. Cheers filled the hall. Yet behind the cheers, unease stirred like smoke. Meanwhile, in the Terran fleet, repairs were already underway, hulls sealed, engines reignited, crews rotated shifts. Exhaustion painted their faces, but no despair touched their eyes. On the flagship Iron Will, Captain Dale walked among the wounded, his boots echoing on steel. Floors? He stopped by Medic Bay, where injured crew lay on stretchers. A young soldier tried to sit up, his voice weak. Captain, did we hold? Dale placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and firm. Yes, we held, and we will hold again. That night, the crew gathered in the mess hall, the hum of engines filling the silence. Engineer Tom stood with a datapad in hand. We are outnumbered. Their ships outgun ours, but they don't think like us. They fight like a machine, and machines break. We fight like humans, and humans adapt. Laughter, quiet but strong, spread through the room, and they did adapt. When the Empire returned with its larger fleet, the Terrans did not meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered into shadows, hiding in asteroid belts, slipping through nebula storms. Their ships vanished and reappeared like ghosts, Empire commanders cursed. They fight dishonorably, they refuse open combat. But in the silence of their minds, they wondered, why were humans so hard to trap, so hard to predict in one battle? Near the Vega Belt, a small Terran squadron lured 3 Empire cruisers into a gravity well, forcing them into the pull of a dead star. The Empire ships tore apart while the humans escaped without a single loss. In another, a single Terran destroyer feigned retreat, drawing half an Empire wing into a minefield. Late minutes earlier, the explosion rippled like thunder, and only human ships emerged. Crew members joked bitterly, "We may not have their numbers, but we have something better. Bad ideas that work." The Empire tried harder, sending larger fleets, using formations older than their throne itself. But the humans broke patterns, shifted tactics, never fought the same way twice. Commander Arvos, scarred from Orion Passage, warned the Council, "They are unpredictable. Every encounter teaches them, and each time we fight, they grow stronger." His warnings were drowned in pride, but whispers traveled the halls. Whispers that the humans were not simply resisting. They were learning how to win. On civilian worlds under the Empire's rule, news spread in secret. Workers in factories whispered over dull machines. Merchants whispered in crowded markets. The Terrans fight the Empire and do not break. And slowly, respect began to mix with fear. In the Terran fleet, a ritual was born. Before each battle, crews would gather, one voice shouting across the decks, "What do we fear?" And the answer roaring back, "Nothing." Then engines flared, weapons primed, and humanity charged into the void once more. The Empire fleets grew frustrated, then furious, and finally uncertain. Their leaders asked themselves in the quiet of night, how do you crush a people who welcome the fire, who bend but do not break? And in the silence of the stars, the answer waited, written in wreckage, whispered in dying breaths, carved Into steel by human hands, we welcome the challenge. The fire spread across the galaxy, not only in battles but in hearts, in fear, and in awe. Humanity's defiance became a story too powerful to contain, and as the Empire prepared its greatest, Armada, the Terrans stood ready, scarred, bloodied, but unbroken, their ships shining like embers against the night, fire in the void, fire that no storm could snuff out, the unshaken stand. The Empire's greatest armada gathered like a storm across the stars. Thousands of ships, their hulls glistening with banners of conquest. Never before had so much power been assembled in one place. From the throne world, the Emperor watched, his eyes cold as stone. "This ends today," he said, his voice carrying across the galaxy through countless channels. "The Terrans will kneel, or they will vanish." Cheers thundered across the Empire, but beneath the surface, unease grew. For every soldier who boarded a ship, there were whispers of the humans, whispers of defiance, whispers of fire that no fleet could quench. Meanwhile, in the Terran fleet, repairs were done, fuel tanks filled, weapons primed, and yet their numbers were small compared to the Empire's storm. On the Iron Will, Captain Dale stood before his crew. "Today," he said, his voice low but firm, "we face their might greater than any before. They believe we will kneel, but they do not understand us. We have knelt to storms, to wars, to death itself, and we stood again. Today we stand once more," the crew roared in answer, voices carrying, "Down every corridor. We welcome the challenge." The two fleets met at the edge of a dying star, its red glow casting long shadows across the void. The Empire struck first, waves of fire cutting into the Terran lines. Ships shook, shields shattered, hulls burned, alarms screamed, yet no one turned away, no one fled. On one Terran cruiser, Engineer Tom crawled through smoke to reconnect power. Sparks burned his skin, his hands bled, but he whispered to himself, "Hold the line," and the lights flickered back on. Cannons roared again in the med bay of another ship. A medic worked without rest, her uniform soaked with blood. She held a soldier's hand and whispered, "You are not alone. We all stand together," even as the ship trembled under another. "Hit!" The Empire pushed harder, believing numbers would decide the battle, but humanity answered with fire and cunning. Small squadrons darted into weak points. Destroyers sacrificed themselves to shatter enemy cruisers, and every death carried meaning. Commander Arvos, watching from his flagship, clenched his fists. "They should have broken by now." His officer shook his head, voice tight. "Sir, they do not fight like an army. They fight like a people." As the battle raged, stories unfolded ship by ship, a pilot with a broken arm still guiding his fighter into an enemy carrier, a mechanic using bare hands to hold a fuel line shut until the guns could fire, civilians on supply ships joining the fight with whatever weapons they had. The Empire had the numbers, but the Terrans had something the Empire could not measure: will. After hours of destruction, the void was littered with wreckage, yet the Terran fleet still stood, fewer in number, scarred and battered but unbroken. Their engines still glowed, their cannons still pointed forward. "On the Iron Will, Captain," Dale whispered into the comms. His voice carried across every Terran ship. "Look at us, still here, still standing. Let the galaxy see. We are not afraid." His words spread beyond the battlefield, intercepted, replayed, whispered in markets. In mines, in homes across the Empire, the message was clear. Humanity did not kneel. Humanity did not break. The Empire fleet hesitated, pride cracking into fear. Commanders argued, some called for retreat, others demanded one last strike, but the fire in the Terran eyes had already carved itself into their memory in the silence. That followed, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, and in that silence, one truth remained. The Terrans had faced the greatest armada in history, and they had not fallen. They stood unshaken, and the words that had begun as whispers now thundered across the stars. "We welcome the challenge." It was more than a phrase. It was a promise, a vow carried by every human heart that no matter The storm, no matter the fire, no matter the empire, humanity would rise. And so, in the ashes of the battle, the galaxy changed. No longer did they see humans as newcomers, no longer as dreamers with fragile ships. Now they saw them as something else, a people who stood against the greatest empire and smiled, a people who turned fear into fire, a people unshaken.